don't know how to start.
I'm just checking it's working.
It is working.
Okay.
I want to say hello, everyone, but I don't know who'll be listening to this. So I'm going to say hello to some people.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary people.
I'm back today with my best friend. Say hi.
Hello.
We're going to be giggling the whole way through this. Most of you wanted to hear some discussion on All the Young Dudes, so here I am, doing something a bit different, not trying to do Remus's voice. So, when did you first read All the Young Dudes?
I read it in the summer, after I was given all of them by a certain someone. And I read all of them in under a week, and immediately went back and reread them again, and then again. And was pretty obsessed, to be honest.
Just a bit. I feel like anyone who reads All the Young Dudes, including my mum, hi mum, she's obsessed as well.
Yeah, you can't have a mild reaction. It's either not that interested or obsessed.
Or obsessed, yeah. And who's your favourite character?
Oh, that's such a difficult question. I think it depends on the day, but we know that it's probably Sirius Black.
Is it? I genuinely thought it would be Remus.
Oh, now you're saying that. Now I'm thinking it is Remus. I don't know.
No, because my favourite character would be Sirius, but...
I love them both equally.
Equally, but differently.
Exactly.
They both have their faults.
Exactly.
And they both have their qualities, I want to say.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult at this point. We've discussed this, but after reading All the Young Dudes, you forget what is and isn't canon. How about you then? So yours is Sirius?
Yeah, Sirius Black.
Okay.
Has to be. The rebel child with the good heart and the slightly erratic personality, but... And the attachment issues.
That could be used to describe any of the characters.
Not James.
Good heart, erratic personality.
James?
No, James is consistent, but he has got a good heart.
Yeah. Whenever I ask anyone who's read All the Young Dudes, favourite character, Sirius. And I see why, but at the same time, because he's my favourite character. But at the same time, there are so many other great characters that it's like, why Sirius? But I think it's because he's just so... Like, you warm to him because he's nice and he's chaotic and you feel sorry for him as well. Even though he actually doesn't have it as hard as Remus, but you actually feel more sorry. Because in the first two books, in All the Young Dudes, he's the one that finds out that Remus is a werewolf first.
He does?
He's the one that helps Remus read.
Oh, a lovely moment.
He's the one that encourages James and Peter to become... how do you say it?
Animators.
Yep.
Anime guy? I don't know.
I don't know. Thoughts on that? Anyway, they become animals. But he's the one that does all of that. And so I think you attach to him because you see how attached he is to other characters. So you feel like he must be a nice person.
Do you know what? You listing all of those things now and actually how many that is makes me wonder, why does he do that? All of that for Remus?
No,
like, he teaches him to read before Remus has even started getting on with them. Remus is still, like, quite nasty at that point and still picking fights with them.
Yeah, and Sirius is just like, I know you can't read. And, like, the best moment is when he's like, no, I'm just going to sit here and just read my history out loud. Like, just so that Remus can listen to the history lesson. And his grades go down and Remus's go up.
See, now that you've said all this, I'm now wondering, was Sirius already slightly falling in love with him?
I think Sirius fell first.
I think maybe yes, because...
Without realising.
Why else was he doing all of that? Because he wasn't friends with Remus.
No, but I think that's...
And also, where did he learn to be so generous? Because he didn't learn it at home. James did. James is able to be generous, but...
Sirius isn't generous, not to anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So why Remus?
I think he just had a soft spot for him, and I think he was
from the start.
I think he was, maybe at 11, he was just the ultimate opposite of what he grew up with. That Sirius, in search of, he comes on the train the first day and is like, great, a Potter, I was told not to be friends with you. Ooh, a half-blood, told not to be friends with you as well. And so he's like, he is in constant search of someone that is the opposite of what he's grown up with. And I think Remus is the ultimate opposite.
That's
and so he's
true.
like, let me attach myself to this person. And then he ends up actually liking him as a person. But I think
That's very true. And also, I think in the same way that we all kind of look at Sirius in the same way that Remus looks at Sirius, that he's so cool in his with his long hair and his leather jackets and his music. And yet actually, even, you know, once they get to know each other and even into the third book, Sirius finds Remus very cool. That's, I think, really one of the reasons he's in love with him.
Sirius thinks Remus is the coolest person.
Absolutely. And I think it's nothing materialistic. It's not because of who he listens to or who he knows. It's because of the way that he's so unapologetically himself. Like when he stomps on the train in his thug outfit and everyone else is like scared of him, and Sirius is like, oh, I was so envious. I think it's more that Remus, in many ways, has been able to live a life of more freedom than Sirius. You know, he's enchained within the fact that he has to transform into a werewolf every month. But actually, who's really stopping him from being who he wants to be in a care home? They don't care about the children.
No.
Whereas Sirius is having his every move watched at home in terms of who his friends are, who he is as a person, how he behaves, how he speaks.
If he wanted to chop his hair off, he couldn't. And then the only time he did have his hair chopped off was a punishment.
Absolutely.
So it's actually not his own choice. So he probably envies. But then, like, I don't think he does envy. He just admires it. In Remus. I think ultimately he just is a warm person, and so they actually ended up fitting together well as the four of them, even with Peter, because Peter is a kid. Like, you can't blame him. He was a kid.
And I think also they, from the very beginning, they have a very fierce desire to protect each other in a way that is more than just that the Marauders want to look out for themselves. You know, when Sirius arrives at James's house in the third or fourth book after, you know, that he's tried to be tortured and
awful.
I don't know,
beginning
one of them,
of the fourth year.
And Remus, you know, it's described as like he has a desperation to like protect him. But Sirius feels the same about Remus, and really he hurts when Remus is hurting from the transformation or feeling like an outsider, and
to do the Animagus thing.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want him to suffer.
Yeah.
Like, James was all up for the idea, but he wouldn't have come up with the idea. Like, he thought it was a good idea and he would go along with it, but he would never have been like, oh, let's do that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have that same attachment. Maybe he would have if it was Sirius. But that was the werewolf.
But that's the thing. It's not in the same way, is it? Because it's not like I want to look out for my friend. It's that they can't stand hurting when the other person's hurting. Once again, you know, Moon and the Stars. There's a connection.
Fate. Remus is the one to save Sirius from the marriage to Narcissa in second year.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they both do it without realising.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get worse at it as they get older because they become more conscious. For example, Remus's hip hurting.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sirius would have found a potion, a cream, something, and he would have helped him. But because they actually communicate, Remus gets mad at him for no reason, for wanting him to...
Well, it's not no reason. It's annoying as a reader. But I think actually the hip thing is more of a example of that. Once they are officially dating, Remus finds it very difficult to accept help.
Right, but he didn't when they were kids. Because Sirius helped him numerous times.
But I think that's because he didn't have a choice. Like,
right.
He's not going to refuse the chance to read, and he's not going to refuse the chance to have people stopping the transformation from being so painful.
Yeah.
Whereas things like, you know, he never wants to be a burden. That's really what it all boils down to.
Yeah.
Sirius, the one hang up he doesn't have is that he's never going to be worried about belonging somewhere simply because he is a black, and even though he doesn't fit in with the blacks, he still has the privilege and the status that comes with that. Whereas Remus's big thing is about feeling like a burden on people, and, you know, always feeling like eventually he's going to be left by himself, and which it does eventually happen. And I think that's, you know, really well written, and that's why his breakdown is understandable.
Yeah.
And also, you know, why Sirius kind of it's such a slap in the face for Sirius when Sirius comes out and can't believe that Remus didn't wait for him. And it's because there was a part of him that really didn't understand that, you know, someone's not going to wait 12 years for you and you feel like you got abandoned.
Oh, you mean came out of Azkaban?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Cornwall when Remus came out.
Oh.
It's so confusing. People coming out left, right, and centre. Just don't know. I just say congrats and then it's done. One thing you took away from the series when you first read it?
Do you know what? When you asked me this, I was like, oh, what am I going to say that I learned some big lesson? But actually, you know what? The biggest thing was actually just remembering how amazing Harry Potter is. Because if you take out the magic from all the young dudes, it's actually quite a typical plot, angsty queer kid at boarding school. It's not like...
Is that Harry Potter?
Exactly. It's not a trope that we haven't seen. But then if you put it within the context of the fact that it is Harry Potter and it's a world we know, and most of the characters are characters that we've seen before, even if we haven't heard their backstories or seen them growing up, McGonagall, Dumbledore, all of the Hagrid, all those characters are in all the young dudes.
Yeah.
And I think that was really what I took away, that there's clearly something about that world that we feel so cemented in, that it feels like you don't need to set the scene the second you open all the young dudes and Remus is getting his letter to go to Hogwarts. You understand exactly
back in that world
where you are.
Back to being 11 and wishing we actually got the letter.
I'm still waiting.
I'm still mad about that. Dumbledore, what happened?
And also what a great piece of fan fiction it is. It really doesn't... I don't want to be derogatory by saying it doesn't read like fan fiction, because we love fan fiction. But
we do. AO3 for the win.
Absolutely. But there is... I honestly, this is a whole... We could have a whole conversation about this. But the way that she uses the structure of the books to kind of in many ways mimic what J.K. Rowling did in terms of the way the characters are growing up and the way that the world is changing around them. And, within both series, you've got the fact that, the war's coming. But then also, in all the young dudes, we've got the fact that, attitudes to queerness are changing, and Remus goes through a whole journey in that sense.
It's an added layer that isn't in Harry Potter.
Absolutely. And also, I think, because Harry Potter does end at, them 17, 18, whereas all the young dudes continues.
Into their 30s, and so it's like later.
Plus, also, there's the fact that in hindsight we know who the characters will turn into, because a lot of them we've met once we get to Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and she doesn't write them so dissimilar to the books in Harry Potter that we don't feel like we wouldn't recognise them. Like
she's very respectful to never contradict what's written.
Exactly.
She just expands, and then, I don't want to say that she's in any way copying, because it's still her story, it's still
Well,
Miss
we don't
Bean
know,
King,
we don't know who they are.
Indeed.
Mysterious. Is it Taylor Swift? Anyway, that's another discussion.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so we said today, instead of going into Harry Potter versus all the young dudes, which was actually, I think it was a close vote. I want to check on my phone, but it was like...
I mean, we're already basically discussing... We can't not discuss Harry Potter versus all the young dudes.
No, that's true, but the topic that a lot of... The majority of people, I think it was 46%, I'm going to get my phone, wanted was queerness in Harry Potter. And that doesn't surprise me, just because of the kind of people that read and listen to Harry Potter, and specifically all the young dudes.
No, it doesn't.
So it didn't really surprise me. So over the years, Harry Potter has kind of become a thing for like the queer community to be like, if you grew up liking Harry Potter, then somewhere under the rainbow now.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it's just become that. It's become associated with that community.
It has.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, we've had lots of discussion about this. I think it's probably lots of reasons, and I think part of them might just be coincidental that, we happen to have all liked Harry Potter, so we see that as a connecting thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But on a more serious level, I think that, lots of people have identified with Harry Potter because both all the young dudes and the main series really explore things like loneliness and growing up feeling different, and like maybe you don't fit in with either your friends or your family, or you don't even have a family because of the way you are. And unsurprisingly, I think that will be something that a lot of people that identify as queer will identify with.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but the whole metaphor of Harry growing up in the closet, it just, maybe that, I don't know, but maybe that resonated with a lot of people.
But book one, 10 years old, we were all like, Harry's in the broom cupboard. This is so...
No, but I'm just saying, like, it's now a joke that
it is.
that is how he grew up.
Absolutely.
And now the fans want Harry Potter to be not straight.
I just, very quickly, you said about the broom cupboard, also the fact that J.K. Rowling herself has said that, you know, she understands people that have said that, you know, the whole werewolf thing is an allegory for the AIDS crisis and things like that. So even...
She said that in interviews.
She hasn't confirmed that was her inspiration, but she has said that she kind of sees where people have got that from. I think the only confirmed inspiration we know about is that she said the Dementors were kind of a physical manifestation of depression.
I knew
but absolutely, there's so many characters that we think are queer-coded or...
Well, I don't know if anyone knows this, but I was watching an interview with David Thewlis, is that how you say his name? So the actor that plays Remus Lupin. And for the first 3 films, I can't remember who the directors were for those films. 2 different directors?
I think it's when Alfonso Cuarón came on in the 3rd film.
Right, we love him.
We do.
I love him. I love his method of teaching and having the kids on set and everything.
Superior for all those who are listening. I hope you agree.
And he was given the direction of, you are a gay man. And so David Thewlis has publicly said that he was playing Remus Lupin as a gay man. And
was shocked to find that he was marrying Tonks in the 6th film.
He was like, wait, what? So, to me, All the Young Dudes is canon because David Thewlis.
No, but All the Young Dudes is also canon because I think that one of the things I like the most about the Wolfstar story is that, you know, there's a wider conversation about sexuality which is a bit different, but within the books themselves, you know, it doesn't Remus say to Sirius something like, oh, it might be difficult for you, but it's not for me, I know I'm these things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I kind of like about, especially the 2nd book, that I don't really feel it's a coming out story.
No, because he doesn't have to do that.
Exactly. It's not it's not that it's not relevant, it's that Remus doesn't see things in that way. I mean, you know, he sleeps with Mary. There's people later on in the books. It's the fact that, like, there's something about Wolfstar that's just meant to be. I mean, literally written in the stars.
Written in the stars.
And also, I think another thing that people have really loved about All the Young Dudes is, while we absolutely love Wolfstar fanfic, and I'm not here to criticise it, Miss Bean King goes out of her way to really flesh out the story, and I mean the books stand up really by themselves, you know.
Without the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. The first book mirrors much of Harry Potter and the way that it's written. And also, we've discussed before that we think that actually it's very purposeful the way that she has chosen Remus as the protagonist and has mirrored a lot of his struggles with Harry. And
they're both orphans.
Absolutely.
They both have a not great upbringing.
Which is the only... Actually, I lie. That is the one contradiction. Remus did not grow up an orphan.
No.
Well, at least not per what the biography we're given on Pottermore, but
to me he did because of All the Young Dudes.
No, but it makes perfect sense, and it makes sense as to why he connects with Harry, because Sirius connects with Harry because he sees James in him.
Yeah.
Whereas Remus connects with Harry because he sees a boy who is... Yeah, he sees himself.
Yeah.
And also he sees Harry's goodness, which comes from his mother, who, you know, we know was very supportive and loved Remus.
And they were best friends.
Absolutely. Which is echoed in All the Young Dudes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We love a bit of Remus and Lily. Friendship.
Friendship.
Friendship. Yeah. Anyone who ships them, they can leave.
Yes.
It doesn't work. Well, as this is queerness in Harry Potter and in All the Young Dudes, Remus is the main character and is queer, as he calls himself.
Yeah, should we get that out of the way now?
Yeah, maybe. So, we were having this discussion the other day about whether in the 70s would someone call themselves queer, because it used to be a slur.
So I've done my reading, I've done my research for this.
You've done some research. We might have my mum commenting in the comment section to correct us.
Anyone who's born kind of pre-1985, let us know.
So,
But,
Mum.
from what I've read, it seems that like there was campaigns in the early 90s to reclaim the word. There were charities that called themselves like Queer Nation and stuff.
But that was
that was definitely after all the young dudes. So certainly in the 70s and early 80s, it still would have been offensive to call someone a queer in the same way that it would be to use the F word.
But I think that I trust Miss King Bean, and I think that she did do her research, and I think that it is quite purposeful in the fact that Remus grew up in St Edmunds in All the Young Dudes, and he wouldn't have been around anyone who was politically correct or what terms they used to describe people. And so he would have adopted queer because he heard that being used as a slur, but he wouldn't necessarily know that there was any other options. So he probably just adopted it from the slur that he heard. I think that's quite purposeful on her behalf. What do you think?
Actually, hearing you say it like that, I do agree, because I think also the fact that he says to Sirius when they're in Cornwall and he says to him, "Oh look, I'm queer," and that's simple. That's easy for me to know that. I wonder if that is a very purposeful use of the word, because he said because that's the worst thing you can possibly be, that you are the slur that
just whack the microphone.
That you are the slur they're calling you, and that he is able to use that in front of Sirius and say
Remus
that's
is
fine.
progressive.
Absolutely. Well, also that he's showing that it's okay for Sirius to be brave and to be something that he's scared to be.
Yeah, and also I think there's a conversation, I can't remember when it is, but with someone is asking Sirius, and Sirius says Remus is queer. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
And then they ask, "Oh, is that how he describes himself?" And Sirius thinks, well, he doesn't know, but that's how Remus talks about himself, so he uses the same. Because Sirius wouldn't know.
No, that's a very good point, because clearly then in that case I think the author did do it purposefully.
Because there's all that conversation, and then later on with Grant, when he's living with Grant actually corrects him and says, "Come on now, Remus, we say gay men." Like he does, and that's in the 80s.
I'm wondering, the listeners will let us know. I wonder,
so many questions.
I wonder if that conversation is in the bootleg tapes. It's when
James
is asking him about when
it is because I just read it. That's why I just read it.
When Sirius tells James that he's together with Remus,
and
he
he's
says, and he
him,
uses that word, and then James is like, "Oh, is that what we call him?
Is that what you're meant to?" Because James, forever the ally.
Always learning,
always wants to be correct. No, we love James. James's attitude to them,
to everyone,
to everyone, but specifically about their sexuality, he is just
as he should be.
He's James Potter. We wouldn't expect any less.
So following on from speaking about Remus, there's kind of lots of other characters that are relevant in this discussion.
Marlene,
Sirius, Marlene, Dumbledore even. I mean, that's a whole separate podcast, isn't it?
We're not. Thoughts on Dumbledore?
I mean, Remus really doesn't like him in All the Young Dudes, does he?
And I think because I've spent so many hours reading from Remus's perspective, I don't like Dumbledore now, but I think it's simply because I've become brainwashed through Remus's eyes, so I don't have an unbiased opinion.
But Dumbledore doesn't treat Remus any differently than Dumbledore treats Harry, and Harry loves Dumbledore. Yeah, Remus is very angry as a character from the start, and I mean, I understand why his life has been unfair, but I also wonder if that's kind of something that people have identified with, that Harry is kind of more accepting of his fate. Yeah. Whereas
Remus is the opposite.
Remus feels like he is hard done by. I'm not going to say he isn't, but I wonder if people kind of prefer that in a protagonist, that he isn't willing to accept what he's given and wants more, which he should. I mean, as he should. Yeah.
Even though Marlene isn't at the forefront of the plot, it's quite an important secondary character.
Oh no, absolutely, because I think it's also Marlene and Christopher, because I think that it's reminders that queer people exist within Hogwarts, and that
which we never saw in Harry Potter.
No, we didn't. And also, it's the author showing that once again, it's not just a Wolfstaff fanfic. She's fleshed out the school as we know it, and she's shown that statistically that, you know, there's going to be a few in every year. So
Lockhart.
So who are the people going to be in during the Marauders time? Let's just talk about Dumbledore.
Okay, we're going back to Dumbledore.
Many controversial opinions. So I stand by this. I honestly do believe that Dumbledore is gay and that J.K. Rowling meant it when she said that, because I want to know what the listeners think.
Is this a question for the general public?
This is a question. What do we think about this? Just because I watched an interview that I really anyone that's a fan, I recommend. It's like Harry Potter. It's Daniel Radcliffe and J.K. Rowling.
Everyone's seen that.
Has everyone seen it? They're like, they ask each other the questions that like they always wanted to ask each other. And Daniel Radcliffe asks about it, and it's like, so Dumbledore being gay, you know, did you just chuck that out to annoy people? And she said, you know, if you live with the character for as long as she has, because, you know, she's lived with them for 20 years at that point, then you know things about them that might not be relevant to the plot. And she was like, I just always knew Dumbledore was.
But then she's like written him as close as a brother to Grindelwald in the
films, I know.
Secret. Well, what is it? The Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, but J.K. Rowling, the last 10 years have been problematic for her. We're not going to go there. And I think that it's interesting then through the lens of all the young dudes, because is one of the reasons that Remus doesn't like Dumbledore is that he doesn't understand why Dumbledore kind of feels that he understands him. Because Dumbledore does often have that air of like, oh, I know what you're really thinking, and I understand
piercing blue eyes looking into your soul and knowing all of your thoughts.
And maybe Remus doesn't realise that Dumbledore sees him and recognises him. And
when he sees him, when he comes and visits him with Grant, it's not my fucking brother, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to. It's a classic moment. Gonna get demonetised for this piss by now.
I mean, obviously, I don't want to talk about Fantastic Beasts because it's dreadful. But
no, let's not go.
But it's disappointing that we're not going to see the Grindelwald and Dumbledore scenario played out properly, because I think
it is in the books. Like, it's actually quite clear.
It's quite clear.
Like, unless you're dense. So we got Dumbledore out the way. Are you happy, or did you want to?
Yeah, no. I said my bit on Dumbledore.
You said your bit on Dumbledore. What were we saying?
What were we saying? So, controversially, or maybe not controversially, I really like the end of All Young Dudes.
No, I like the end, but we have a friend who doesn't like the end.
We do.
We do.
No, I think that fate is probably one of the most important themes in Harry Potter, and I think that it's kind of difficult in All the Young Dudes to use fate as a key theme, just because we know what's going to happen, and that can't be changed, because you can't. I mean, you can mess with what's going to happen in the later books, but Miss King doesn't want to do that. No, that's not what she's setting out to do.
The ending is the same as Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I think because of that, it really does work, because we know that Wolfstar are meant to be, and it doesn't matter that they'll both die eventually.
Don't say that.
Because I think that's, you know, why it's kind of the ultimate romance, isn't it? How can it not? I mean, why is Wolfstar the most popular ship if people don't think it's kind of the ultimate coupling?
Well, no. Yeah, no. It in the Harry Potter world, it is the ultimate ship.
Yeah, I don't want to discuss the other most popular.
Do you not?
No.
Okay. That's for another
Apologies for listeners that are here for Drarry content. They'll not get that.
Don't worry, I'll cover that. I'm a fan. Am I? No, I am. What were you saying? You like the ending? Yes.
No, just because I think that, you know, there are lots of people that love Grant. I've got to be honest with you. I'm kind of indifferent. You know, there's no question Grant as a standalone character is amazing and a great human being, but in terms of just the relevance to Remus's story, I see Grant more as like a really kind figure to help him, but I never believe in that relationship or think that Remus ever really sees himself with Grant. You know, Grant really is a stand-in for Sirius, and he knows that.
I was convinced that they were maybe even gonna get back to... Oh, I didn't know how it was gonna end when I first read All the Young Dudes, but I was like here for Grant and Remus. I don't know what the ship name is called, but Remus? Oh no, it sounds like the Grinch. But I was here for it, And then I read she really cleverly put in the chapter from Grant's perspective. And I think had she not used that perspective, I would have been disappointed that they weren't together. But because we got Grant's perspective on things and how differently he envisioned his life, then you just realise it's not compatible with Remus.
Yeah.
And how he also, Grant, knows himself, that Remus sees him differently as he sees Sirius.
And also, you know...
And so that was solidified for me. The ending was the right ending because of that chapter that they included.
No, I do agree. And also, you know, this is controversial, but Remus says he learned to love Grant, but actually... He did.
He did in a different way.
But exactly, in a different way. And also... for how long? Because bear in mind that of the 10 years or so they were together, it takes Grant quite a few years to get Remus sober and kind of back on track and out of his shell. And then Remus also spends a year at Hogwarts. So Sirius is the love of his life.
Yeah, Sirius is the love of his life. I saw a really sad post about people saying that there's a theory that Grant is just a figure of Remus's imagination, because you know how he talks to himself so much? And, like, that's how he coped those 12 years. And it's not true because she wrote it as a character. But
exactly, well, he pops up earlier on in the books. And
that thought is sad.
But it's a good one, though. I mean, Remus is an alcoholic.
He hallucinates a 12-year relationship.
No, but I think it... But also, you know, one of the things that we learn about war in both series is that it is going to take a lot of people, and you know, your favorites will probably die. And I think that what we don't get in Harry Potter is we don't get the aftermath of the war.
No,
you know, we get 19 years later, which is where they've all had kids, and it doesn't tell us anything. And actually, when she eventually writes The Cursed Child, Harry is still struggling from trauma from Cedric. So, you know, I think I like the fact that she really tries to show, like, even we see Mary's story in the way that Mary had to leave the magical world. And actually, speaking of which, that's reminded me of the discussion we had the other day about one of the other reasons that I think that Grant and Remus is only ever going to be temporary is because Remus can't leave the magical world. He thinks he wants to, but he can't because he is innately a magical being.
But he's not only a wizard; he's a creature as well. So he's a
creature of that world.
He is magic. It's not that he can do magic. He is magic.
The reason he thinks he wants to leave it all behind.
It sounded like Sirius. Sorry, Sirius says. When he's drunk, he's like, "You're magic." Sorry, I just
But that's such a good example, because that's the thing. That is, in many ways, Sirius sees Remus's condition as more of a positive than Remus does. He describes him as beautiful, and when he transforms, and I think that
sus, if you ask me,
he not envies, because once again Sirius doesn't envy Remus, but I think he appreciates that Remus has a bond to the magical world that other people don't.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that Remus avoids magic because he's so traumatized by what happened, but I don't think it's because he dislikes magic. Mary can walk away because she's a muggle. Well, she's not, she's muggle born. But
okay, so I don't know if we covered everything that we wanted to cover, or even if we stayed on topic, but I hope that we did. I think we just had a discussion that actually sounds like our discussions that we have at, like...
This was essentially just a recording of our late night conversations.
At 1 a.m, being like, I think All the Young Dudes is the best thing ever. But I thought I would bring up some comments, because some of you guys have been making my days by commenting funny things, including my mum. But that's for another video.
The ultimate grandstand.
The ultimate grandstand. Someone did comment this that I found quite interesting, asking the question, is it me, or is Sirius more purist after Azkaban than before? Ooh. And I thought that was such interesting view of it. And I did reply with, I think his brain probably reverted somewhat backwards, as the Dementors make you think about your worst memories. And since his are of the Black family, he would have spent time with those ideas at the forefront of his mind. And so actually I think he did quite well, because don't they make you revisit, like, your worst
They
things.
do. I'm actually just trying to think about what the person really means by that.
Well, because he comes
Purist
back...
in his attitude or in his personality?
Well, personality wouldn't change, but his whole... This is in relation to the chapters when he is staying with Remus and Grant, and he really doesn't like Grant. And he's like... Because it's from his point of view, he's like, the Muggle did this. He has a Muggle television. Remus has become so boring now that he doesn't use magic. And I think that's why they picked up on that point.
Okay, no.
And I thought that was super interesting.
I understand that interpretation. I have to disagree. I think all of the bitterness it's completely just stemming from...
Jealousy?
Jealousy. And that, not so much,
Jealousy,
but also
jealousy.
Betrayal. Remus feels betrayed in terms of he literally thought Sirius was the spy, but Sirius feels betrayed as in he assumed that Remus would be waiting for him forever. And he can't comprehend that not only is it another person, but it's a Muggle.
Yeah, and I also think that he didn't grow up because Remus grew up 12 years with life experience.
No, Sirius gets stunted the day he goes into Azkaban,
doesn't
essentially.
He's still, in his mind, he's still, what was he, 19, 20?
Yeah.
So he emotionally he won't have matured. So
yeah,
that actually makes sense. But I did think it was very insightful of that person to ask.
do agree. I have to agree.
Someone called Crazy Marvel Fan. I don't know your name. I'm sorry, but you comment on all my videos, and so thank you. We appreciate that. Another comment that Diana makes. Diana comments on every single videos, and she has done for 4 months. So hi, Diana. We do. No choice but to. She says that Remus is so cruel to Grant sometimes, and I think this was chapter 183.
Well, I think Remus is cruel to a lot of the characters.
Yeah. But when Grant is doing everything he can to be nice, it feels kind of sad for Grant.
It does. But as I say, that's why I'm not really hugely bothered about Grant, because I just think that like he's essentially just a really, really kind human being that comes into Remus's life to look after him, but
we're not that sad.
We can't really judge Remus for the way he's behaving because he's not well and he's had to deal with unimaginable tragedy.
That's true, but I will bring my mum's comment up to defend Grant. So it's a comment that's made on the exact same chapter. She says, "Life is hard sometimes, with so many conflicts and choices. I so feel for Grant, a true shining star. He's like a loyal, caring golden retriever, standing by the person he loves. Always, without judgment, just loving." I do think Remus knows that. Love them both. 2 heart emojis.
Johan really gets to the root of what All the Young Dudes is really about.
Well, she called it a Shakespearean tragedy the other day.
She was right.
Should we get her on these? I think
you should.
At Christmas I will.
She can do the Grant episode.
I'll do that. I'm going home for Christmas, so I'll get my mum to be on an episode. I have to take my microphone with me.
No, I think she's right, and I think Remus does know that, but I think that's the problem, is that in many ways Grant's relationship with Remus is kind of unhealthy because Remus can't help be racked by guilt that he knows that no matter how much he loves Grant, he's never going to love Grant as much as Grant loves him and in the way that Grant wants him to.
Yeah.
Because Grant could be with Remus, as in really be with him, whereas Remus will always be hoping that Sirius is in the wings waiting for him.
Yeah. To end on a good note, we are grateful for All the Young Dudes for portraying the characters in a way that took us back to going back to Harry Potter, to reading it for the first time, which we'll never get to do again, so I felt like we actually got to do that with All the Young Dudes. And it was so easy to enter into the world. And we're grateful for the writer for writing complex queer characters, not just characters that get AIDS and die. Can we just... Yeah. Or like the gay best friend in the movie.
Yeah. If anything, James is the straight best friend.
Anyway.
Let us know your thoughts.
Or things that you would like to see happen, or things that you didn't want to see happen.
Or just what you enjoyed about it.
Yeah. Favourite character, favourite moment.
This is just a warm-up if you guys like this. Hopefully we'll have actual content once we hear from you guys what you would enjoy or want to hear, or even more fiction for you to read. Yeah,
some ideas. I've got some already good suggestions from people in the comments, so I'm compiling a list. Also, the bootleg tapes are coming. I'm in the process of recording them, so don't worry about that. We hope this entertained you and keeps you in the world of all the young dudes. Because I know when I finished it, I went straight back to reading it again.
Me too.
So did you. And then I gave myself the task of recording all of the books on audio, which, looking back, I don't know how I did.
I know it's been a real mammoth task.
It has, but now I've become extra attached to it, and so now it's even harder to leave it. I'm in love with this world, and so I'm going to put as much as my heart can deal with, because it's tragic. But
me too. Always happy to join to chat about it.
Thank you, and we will do anything you guys want to hear. Well, anything. I mean,
within reason.
Within reason. Thank you for listening. Any last words?
What the hell?
I don't know how to end it.
That was a good end. That was a good end.
Okay.
Any last words?
Before you die.
Any last requests?